However, once you hit 65 and older, your risk of a stroke go up significantly more than if you were 30. So it's unfortunate and sad that those who have a stroke at 65 will not be able to have access to the resources that Mark has had, which has made such a huge difference in his abilities. I know he would not be able to do as much as he can had he not been able to receive such wonderful rehab from all these sources. Welcome to Aging in Style, the podcast dedicated to celebrating aging and what it takes to do it well. I'm Lori Williams. I'm a certified senior advisor and senior housing expert. In each episode, you'll learn stories of older adults who are thriving in their 70s, 80s, 90s, and in some cases in their hundreds. Whether you're an older adult or the child of an older adult, this podcast is filled with insightful resources, organizations that are doing incredible work, and stories that will inspire you to volunteer, learn, and who knows, maybe even skydive in your golden years. Hi, welcome to Aging in Style. I'm Lori Williams, the host of this podcast. If you're just tuning in, the podcast is dedicated to celebrating aging, sharing things that come with aging so that you have knowledge of services, of illnesses, of senior housing, pretty much anything senior related. We try to answer your questions. And then we also have incredible seniors that we have on the podcast who share their stories and how they are living their best lives, no matter, what their age is. So that's really the focus of the podcast. And if this is your first time listening, what I'm going to share today is my personal story, which I've been sharing over the past year and a half, giving updates on it. And the story is that my husband, Mark, had 4 strokes that started on Christmas Day, 2022. He is disabled from those strokes. And just along the way, I personally have learned so much. And I just felt compelled that I needed to share it with other people because I've learned so much and it's just information that other people need to have. So if you're on a journey with someone who is critically ill or injured by stroke, by dementia, by whatever accident, anything, I just see it as a guide to kind of help you on your way and let you know you're not alone, being an advocate for someone you love, and then also being a caregiver. It's a lot. As I shared more about my story, a lot of people contact me and ask me, how's Mark doing? And so I'm going to address that today. And I had also published a book about this experience and our family's journey. And the book was published in late July. And I want to give you an update on how it's doing. So the book is Surrounded by Love, One Family's Journey Through Stroke Recovery. It is on Amazon, and I'll put the link as well in this podcast. So if you want to order your own copy of the book, you can get it. So let me just kind of start with giving you an update on Mark. So if you've been following along, you know that Mark at age 62 had these 4 strokes. We have been through quite a journey along the way through all kinds of in-hospital rehab and then living in a rehab and now outpatient rehab or neuro rehab. And he decided, I guess it's been a little over a month now, that he was just very tired of going to the outpatient neuro rehab. And the poor guy, he's given it 110%. And, I've shared with him and shared with the podcast that he has, I admire him and I'm impressed by his strength and fortitude through this. I honestly don't think I would have had the strength to go through all that he has gone through in his recovery and trying to learn to walk again and talk and all the different things. I don't know that I would have that strength, to be honest with you. So I'm very, very proud of him. So he would go to this outpatient neuro rehab, and they would pick him up at 8, and then he would get home around 2 p.m., so 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., he had gotten to the point where he didn't take his wheelchair, so he walked with his cane. And he doesn't have full mobility on his right side. So when you're walking, he's not walking normally. And so he's using all these different muscles and parts of his body that he's just kind of like thrown out of whack. And so he has started to have, unfortunately, a lot of pain. he kept telling me just pain, 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 and pointing on his leg and his arm. And I finally understood that what he was trying to tell me is that, I just can't do this anymore. And so, there's a part of you where, as the caregiver and like that, I just want the best for him, that I was trying, I was kind of being blinded by that. This is the best, that you're going to this rehab, you're going there and getting all of this help. And I had to kind of step back and go, you know what, I need to think what is not only best for him, like what I think is best, but what is best for him mentally. And he's in this body. He knows better than I know how he's feeling. So he said, I don't want to go anymore. We had some conversations. I had conversations with his social worker and determined that we're going to end in the rehab. So we did. And that was, it was a hard decision. I was kind of sad about it and nervous, to be honest with you, because, I have concerns about his mobility and keeping his strength. And you need to continue doing therapy to stay strong. And he's a big guy. He's almost 6 feet. I'm 5'2". What am I going to do is always my kind of panic mode. What am I going to do if he can't go from wheelchair to bed or to the bathroom? How am I going to help him? So those were the things kind of in my mind and causing me some sleepless nights, to be honest with you. And we were able to start him in a rehab called Rehab Without Walls. And they come to our house and they do rehab. Mark qualified for 24 hours of rehab a week, which is incredible. And, I realize in talking with other people how lucky we are that we live in Dallas, which is a huge city. We have had so many wonderful resources available to us that I know a lot of people don't have. And every state is different. So there's apparently a brain injury mandate here in Texas that has been on our side to help us. Also, the fact that Mark has been on private insurance, we haven't hit him going on Medicare because that makes a difference too. So all of these great programs that Mark has been able to, be a part of, it's because he has, been on private insurance and he's not on Medicare. So things are going to change for us when he turned 64 and a half. And I think it's good to know this. So when he went on disability, and when you go on disability, the letter they had sent me when he was approved was at 64 and a half, when he's that age, he will need to go on Medicare. But the way it was worded, quite honestly, I understood it to be you have the choice for him to go on Medicare. But no. Luckily, I spoke with someone who is a Medicare specialist, and she informed me that that is not how that works. So he automatically will be put on Medicare at 64 and a half. So I'm now doing the planning to make sure that I put him on, obviously he'll go on original Medicare, the type A, and then I'm going to get him the very best supplements, or like I tell him, I will get you the Cadillac of supplemental plans because we want you covered as much as possible and get as much therapy as we can. So unfortunately, these neuro programs that Mark has been in, Medicare does not pay. It's not them. It's Medicare will not pay for this brain rehab, which is unfortunate because you can have a stroke at any age. No one is immune to that happening. However, once you hit 65 and older, your risk of a stroke go up significantly more than if you were 30. So it's unfortunate and sad that those who have a stroke at 65 will not be able to have access to the resources that Mark has had, which has made such a huge difference in his abilities. I know he would not be able to do as much as he can had he not been able to receive such wonderful rehab from all these sources. So that's kind of the update on Mark. So we are doing Rehab Without Walls. They come to our house 24 hours a week. He gets physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. And he's doing well with it. He's enjoying it. He's happier because he's not having to walk so much, such long distances. Our dog Sadie, if you follow along, we have a golden retriever who is the love of all of our lives, our entire family. And we believe she was sent as a guardian angel. She was still a puppy when Mark had his stroke, and she has honestly trained herself to be a therapy dog. And she has laid on the bed with him while they're doing physical therapy with her sweet little head on his shoulder. And she's just amazing. And I shouldn't say little because she's an 89-pound dog. She is a huge golden retriever, but it just has been such a blessing. So it's lovely for him that he's in his home environment. He's getting therapy at home. He has the dog, so things are good. So Mark is good, and he will hopefully continue with this therapy until he turns 64 and a half, which will be December of this year. And then after that, we will face what comes next, which I know will be through home health. He will be approved. Medicare does pay once, if a doctor has ordered therapy, which I'm sure he will be getting therapy, but it'll be limited. And I know that. So, I'm making plans. I have a friend who's a physical therapist who I've paid him to come to the house and do some therapy with Mark. And he's wonderful and amazing and has done some stretching and massage and different things to really help Mark. So I got a plan. The thing with any type of the loved one who is sick or has a progressive illness or whatever it may be is to always have plan A, B, C, D, just have as many plans in advance as you can. And that's what I do with Mark. I always try to stay ahead so I'm not scrambling to figure out, oh my gosh, what is next? And that is, I think, the best advice that I can give anyone in the same type of situation. Anyhow, thank you all for always asking about Mark. I love that. And I tell him that people inquire and wish him their best all the time. And that means the world to our entire family. So that's Mark. He's doing good, keeping a good attitude. And the book is very exciting. So the book is Surrounded by Love, One Family's Journey Through Stroke Recovery. And I wrote the book because of this journey that my family's been on and in the hopes that it will help other people. So I've had some interesting questions that come up all the time. So one of them is, when did you have time to write a book? And that's a great question. But the funny thing is, like most people, it's just kind of like, wow, when did you have time? But I've had a couple of people who were kind of like angry about it, which I was like, whoa, like, I can't believe you had time to write a book. When did you write a book? And kind of like an angry tone about it. So to answer your question, during this whole thing with Mark, from the very beginning in ICU, I was taking notes on my iPhone about what I was feeling, what I was seeing. My thoughts, being a senior advocate, as I have been for so many years, my thought immediately went to, what if I were 85 instead of 58? I was 58 at the time. I had knowledge of, healthcare. I had friends and family who work in healthcare. I had people to call and people who were contacting me and helping me through all of this. And I already had a pretty good idea of what the path was going to look like. But what if I didn't have that? And what if I were alone and I was 85? I was alone at 58. We had no family in the state. And it was our neighbors, thank God, neighbors and friends who came through for us. And family did, but we didn't have someone who could come and sit at the hospital with me. What if I were 85 and had no family and had health issues? There's just so many things that just kept coming into my mind. So I was taking notes on my phone through all this, and some of them make no sense. When I went back and read it, there were some that I'm like, I have no clue what I was talking about there. But anyhow, it was like a release to me. And I am someone who I like to journal and kind of get those feelings and process them through journaling. So I was journaling things and just realized this could help other people. And when you go through such a traumatic event, and I will say this is trauma, quite honestly, to have had this happen to my husband, to have seen him have his strokes, to have seen him have 2 seizures. It is trauma. And it's trauma for me. It's trauma for our kids. It's trauma for Mark, obviously, but we've all been through a trauma. And I feel like there's so much I have learned throughout this journey that it wouldn't be right of me not to share it with other people. Because if I can prevent someone from going through something we have, whether it's preventing a stroke or calling 911 if you suspect someone's had a stroke instead of driving them to the hospital. Learn from my mistakes, learn from what I have learned on this journey. So I felt like I had to write this book. This book, it just flowed out of me when I started writing it. And I just feel like it needed to be written. And I'm so thankful to have it out there for people. And the feedback we're getting has been wonderful. There's 14 reviews on Amazon already, 5-star reviews. The book's only been out for a little over a month. So I'm so thankful for all those great reviews. I appreciate people doing that. I've also had so many people email me, many people I don't even know who have purchased the book and have just told me that they had a loved one who had a stroke or they were a caregiver. And what I shared in the book made them feel like they were not alone and that their story was very similar to what our family has gone through. I've also had people just, say, thank you for this guidance. Maybe they're on another type of journey, not stroke related. Maybe it's dementia, but they're a caregiver. But the information I share in the book for being an advocate and being a caregiver helped them. And also, I share a lot about being a caregiver, and I was very real and raw with what I shared. And, there's things that go through your mind when you're a caregiver and you think, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person for having that thought. And you're not. And you're not alone because we all have these things. We're human. Things will come into our mind. And I think it's important to just validate that your feelings are normal. There's nothing wrong with if you are going through a lot. Being a caregiver is honestly the hardest thing I've ever done. And I think we need to validate your feelings that you're not alone and this is hard and it does suck. It does. And I think it's important to not just be like, oh, I can do this or this is my job or whatever. This is my purpose. I mean, it may be, but it is hard and it is okay to acknowledge that fact. So in the Amazon reviews, like I said, there's been several really good ones. I was going to just pull up a few of them, and they've all been wonderful. And I appreciate people for taking the time to write the reviews. And the book is still hitting, trending with nervous system diseases and strokes, which I'm very thankful for that because those are the people I'm trying to reach, or anyone who's a caregiver. But I've had a lot of people reach out and just say, here's one. Lori's written The Ugly Truth About Life After an Illness. Struggles are real. This book can guide you through many issues that may arise after an illness, but most of all, let it be a testimony to the love shared between God and this family. So, I mean, not only do I want to share, things that could help someone else, but I also want to show that we can go through a terrible traumatic event such as this and not lose our faith. We can actually grow in our faith. And whether you're a person of faith or not, I think it's important to share this, that all the people who came and held my family up through this whole ordeal and who are still in our lives, still checking in on us and still praying for Mark and praying for our entire family, that's made all the difference. And this is why I titled the book Surrounded by Love, because throughout such an awful, it was an awful thing to go through. We felt the support and we felt the love of others and we felt surrounded by love. And I think that is a huge gift. So anyhow, that's pretty much what I want to share about the book and about just kind of giving y'all an update. So Mark's doing good. Things have changed a little bit, but we're still doing good. The book is doing good. And if you know anyone who could benefit from this book, I would love for you to share it. I'm delighted to say that I have been invited to speak at several groups or for several groups about the book, about strokes. And I'm just so happy to be able to share that and hope that this will impact one person's life, help one person at least. And then also I have been contacted by several different groups through hospitals, through doctors' offices and rehabs wanting to talk to me about sharing the book with their patients. So it's some exciting opportunity there. And just for it to get to people, to anyone who's going, like I said, who's a caregiver and advocate for a loved one who's ill, but especially to get to the people who are impacted by strokes and who may be just starting this journey, I would love for this book to get into their hands because I feel like it can help them. It can help them not feel alone and help them know what the next steps are going to be, what to ask their case manager. Is there some type of a neuro rehab in their area? So I'm excited that we're getting some inquiries about that. But Anyhow, that is what I wanted to share with y'all. Please, if you have not yet gone and subscribed to the podcast, please do that because we have episodes out every Friday, and I would love to have you notified when they're on so that you can listen. And if you have any questions you have for me about aging, about strokes, about anything, or maybe information we haven't shared about aging that you would like to know about, please send me a message. And my website is probably the best place to go to get that information to me. And it's LoriWilliams-seniorservices.com. So thank you, as always, for listening to the podcast. And please continue to share it with your friends and family and neighbors. And we will talk to you next week. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hi, thank you for listening. Navigating care for a loved one who's a stroke survivor can be totally overwhelming. Yes, the internet is free and there's a ton of information out there, but also your time is valuable. That's why I wrote my book, Surrounded by Love, One Family's Journey Through Stroke Recovery. In the book, I document everything that I've learned and wish someone had told me about while I was navigating the first months of stroke recovery with my husband, Mark. It's available now on Amazon and all other online book retailers. There's also a link in the show notes that you can click to get your own copy.